So today, we're going to dive into this really fascinating idea about creativity. It's a framework that kind of smashes together modern psychology with some pretty profound ancient philosophy. We're going to figure out why our absolute best ideas seem to pop up the second we stop trying so hard.
You've been there, right? I mean, we've all been there, staring at a blank screen, wrestling with some impossible problem, just trying to force an answer, and you get nothing, zilch. Then you give up, you go take a shower, you go for a walk, and then, bam, the solution just materializes out of nowhere. It's this super common, kind of maddening experience, and it's the big question we're digging into today. And that right there, that feeling of hitting a wall, that's what we're calling the creative paradox. It's that universal struggle of consciously trying to will a new idea into existence. And it feels like the harder you push, the further away it gets.
Okay, so to really get a handle on this paradox, we need to be clear on what we're even talking about. When psychologists talk about creativity, they have a pretty standard two-part definition. For something to be creative, it has to be original, right? It has to be new, something novel. But, and this is key, it also has to be appropriate. It has to actually be relevant and useful to whatever you're trying to do.
And this is where you can start to see a natural tension. You know, in the arts, the scale might be tipped almost all the way over to originality and novelty. But if you're an engineer or a scientist, your idea isn't creative if it isn't appropriate. I mean, if it doesn't actually solve the problem, who cares how original it is? Getting that balance just right is the name of the game.
So get this, that feeling of being completely and utterly stuck, it's not a sign that you're failing. It's actually a recognized official part of the process. Researchers literally call it the frustration phase. It's that moment when all your logical A to B attempts have just led you to a dead end. And as we're about to see, that frustration is actually the secret doorway to a breakthrough.
All right, so to see why that frustration phase is so critical, let's pull back the curtain on the standard Western model for how creativity is supposed to work. This is the blueprint that's really dominated psychology for the last century or so. This is the classic four-stage model. First, you've got preparation. This is the grind. It's the research, the focused work, the banging your head against the wall part. Then comes incubation. This is where you step away and let your unconscious mind just kind of chew on everything. That leads to step 3. Illumination, the aha moment, the shower idea, and finally, verification, where you take that amazing flash of insight and actually shape it into something real. Now, this whole process is powered by two totally different ways of thinking. Think of it like this. On one shoulder, you have divergent thinking. This is your inner brainstormer. It's wild, it makes tons of weird connections, and it's all about generating possibilities with a wide-open, defocused mind. On the other shoulder is convergent thinking. That's your inner editor. It's focused, logical, analytical. Its job is to narrow things down and pick the best solution. The creative paradox kicks in when we try to use our editor to write the first draft. We're trying to use that focused, convergent thinking to come up with something new, and it just doesn't work. So, if forcing it is the problem, what's the solution? Well, for that, we can look to an ancient Eastern philosophy that, at first, sounds completely backwards. Welcome to the art of not forcing. The concept is called Wu Wei. Now, it literally translates to non-doing, but hang on, this is not about being lazy or just doing nothing. It's about effortless action. Think of it as the art of moving in perfect harmony with the flow of things, like a surfer riding a wave instead of trying to fight it. I absolutely love this quote from the philosopher Alan Watts because it just nails the feeling of Wu Wei. A river doesn't struggle, it doesn't hustle to get to the ocean, it just follows the natural path of gravity, effortlessly. That's the whole vibe. So let's just put it side by side. Our whole modern culture is built on forcing it. The grind, the hustle, exerting conscious control. Wu Wei points to a totally different way, letting go, spontaneous harmony, and flowing with the current, not against it. Okay, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds a little mystical, maybe a little abstract. But this is where it gets really, really cool. This is where this ancient wisdom slams right into modern brain science. Here's the big punchline. That mental state that Wu Wei talks about, it's not just a nice philosophical idea. It turns out to be a shockingly accurate description of the exact neurological conditions our brains need to have a creative breakthrough. I mean, just look at these parallels. It's amazing. The idea of effortless action in Wu Wei, that maps directly to a loosening of our cognitive control. Spontaneity,
That corresponds to decreased cortical arousal, which basically means your brain's focused analytical CEO is taking a coffee break. The idea of getting out of your own way. That's what happens when the brain's default network, the part that's active when you're daydreaming, lights up. And aligning with the natural flow, well, that's a perfect description of defocused attention, the key to making all those new surprising connections.
There's this beautiful quote from a creativity researcher, Leon Gabora, that gives us a whole new way to picture this. An idea isn't something you forge and hammer into shape. It's more like an object. And when you get into that effortless, wu-wei state of mind, it's like you're able to just walk around that object and shine a light on it from all these new, weird angles. You're not forcing the shadows, you're just allowing them to be seen.
So, okay, we've gone from ancient China to the inside of an MRI machine. What does all of this actually mean for you, for your own work, for your own creative process?
Let's just boil it all down. Real creativity is a dance, right? It's a dance between the hard work of generating ideas and the focused work of refining them. That frustration you feel isn't a dead end. It's a cue from your brain to switch partners, to let go. And this ancient idea of wu-wei, of effortless action, gives us this perfect mental model for making that switch. It's a state that science now shows is literally the fertile ground where our best ideas grow. So I'll just leave you with this question. That brilliant idea, that elegant solution, that piece of art you've been fighting to create, maybe it's already there, just waiting. What could you bring into the world if you just learn to stop forcing it and simply get out of your own way?